Hello, everyone. Okay, let's just wait till 8:05. And when it's 5 minutes past 5 minutes past 8, we can comment. So, what I do? Very often. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Please, if you can hear me, let me know. Just react to something. Okay. All right. Let us start. Lady Joyce, please just lead us in short prayer. Let's open the session for us with prayer, opening prayer. Thank you. Mm, Okay, so I'm getting some feedbacks um, about the link being invalid, but it's the same link everybody used. So just give me some minutes to. Okay, minutes past that time. Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Apologies for the interruption. So please let's start. Lady Joyce, can you please lead us in prayer so we can go ahead? Thank you.
In Jesus' name.
Mm,
Father, we thank you. Thank you for your grace upon our life. We thank you for yet another beautiful day. We thank you, Lord Jesus, for this gathering, and we ask that you to glorify your name. We ask, Lord Jesus, that the wealth of knowledge that we've gained today, we ask that may be useful in our daily life in the name of Jesus. We ask
mm,
that the flow of this meeting be a success to the glory of your name in Jesus' name.
mm. Okay, so I don't know if she's done, but to make things easier, if because I'm trying to check for the host stuff, I can't find it. So if you're co-hosting, please just kindly unhost yourself. So if you are hosting, if you consider yourself to be an host, like a co-host, please kindly unco or unhost yourself so that we can connect it with other platforms. Because I'm unable to do that. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for coming over for joining this session. And apologies once again for the break in transmission due to technical issues that we were so much trying to avoid. So we'll just go straight into the session for today. And I believe, some of us were here the last time we had our, first quarter meeting. To the glory of God, it went well, and we are here again for another one. And I believe we all know that the first one is like a connection, it's like a flow to this other one, because the first one was talking about, enlarging your capacity and all of that. All right. So aside from, we having to talk about it in general terms, having to enlarge your capacity, we would also want to look at it in different, aspects or areas of our lives. And for this particular session, we would want to look at the financial aspect, which was why, we come up with the team with the Holy Spirit helping us, breaking limits and building wealth. Right. So for those joining us for the first time, Arete Kingdom Ladies Ministry is a platform that helps women to be a completely balanced, woman, equipping them to be empowered in all areas of their lives, you know, not just for themselves, but for what they've been called to do, for what they've been created to do, and for others around them. So their financial aspects, spiritual life, social life, emotional life, mental, physical life, all areas, career, business wise. We just stand to, you know, help women, equip them to be completely balanced in all these areas and to ensure that whatever, gate of influence they dominate, they do it well and excellently. Right. So today, without further ado, I'll just want to introduce our guest speaker. I understand that most of us must have seen the flyers and everything, but let me just read his profile so that we can have an understanding of what he does, what he represents. Our guest speaker for tonight is Moses Adebayo, popularly known as AMS. right? So Moses Adebayo is known for breaking down complex financial ideas into simple, practical steps that help people manage their money with confidence. With experience in retail banking and financial planning, Moses take a clear, organized approach to money, connecting how money moves day to day with how wealth is built over the long run. Having worked in established financial institutions, Moses combines that real world banking experience with practical financial planning. He helps young professionals manage their cash flow well, build financial freedom, and grow their wealth on purpose without unnecessary risks or guesswork. At least I can attest to this. I've known him for 6 to 7 years since NYSC. And when someone is just, on the tangents from his first book, everything, he has to do basically, is money, 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 financial literacy, financial freedom, you know, accumulation of wealth and everything, that will help human being grow financially. That's has been what I've known him for professionally. So I believe we are all here today to have a taste of that, to experience that aspect of him, and I pray that we will be enlightened and will be free through today's session. So I don't know if you're sitting down or you're lying down, with standing ovation. Let's welcome our guest speaker for tonight, Moses Adebayo. You're
Yeah, good
welcome.
evening.
You're welcome. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Yes, you have
I
the
really
floor to
appreciate
yourself.
that introduction. Well, it's a small class, and I want this conversation to be interactive. So sorry, I would like to disturb us. I have some participants here that I can't identify. I have iPhone, Zoom user. I would like to know them by names so that in the course of the presentation, I'll be able to, picture who I'm dealing with. So I don't know if we can have a short introduction from everyone, actually. I know I've heard from Sister Josie, and I'll just like to hear from everyone, just to ensure that this presentation is valuable to everyone. So can we have that quickly? Thank you.
Maybe you should call names so that it will be faster. Yes. You can just call on any names.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this iPhone. Okay, iPhone is gift. I'm taking notes. Thank you, Gift. I would have loved to hear from everyone so that I know what your age and what you do. I don't mean your age practically, but from your voice, I would have picked. But chat is also okay. What about Zoom user? Zoom user. Zoom user. Okay. Person is very important. I know who I'm dealing with so that I want to believe that this section is just for you, and that is why I'm doing this. But without wasting our time, permit me to share my slide.
Okay, hello everyone. I think my name is Jochebe. That's Josie, and I'm sure we've met.
Josie, I'm with you.
Okay, hello sir.
You were trying to introduce yourself. So on behalf of
Yes.
everyone, since no one is talking, you can just tell me who are your ladies.
Okay, sir. Okay, my name is Jochebe, and it's hard to identify some of the people here because of the names. So I can't really tell or call out names here. We have iPhone, like you said, we have Zoom user, and then we have Rhoda,
Okay.
we have Catalyst for Young Development Foundation here. So,
All right. All right, no problem. Thank you, Josibel. Well, in the course of the presentation, I would like to break complex things so simple. I will believe we have people who are just starting, up in life, and then I believe we have middle class people. I also believe we have probably old ladies among us as well, women. So, and because this presentation is streamed live, I want to believe that we have a larger audience beyond the one we currently have. Okay, good evening, everyone. Once again, Moses, and I'll take us through breaking limits, building wealth. And very quickly, I don't know if you have ever discussed wealth matters before, money matters before. And this evening, you are about listening to one that will challenge everything you've heard about money and personal finance. So this is the West strategy nobody talks about. So, and very quickly, I'll discuss what Arete means, because honestly speaking, I wanted to understand who my audience are, and then unfortunately, I've not been equipped with a better picture of my audience. Please, can you confirm you can see my slide?
No, not anymore. Please share.
Okay. So, what does Arete means? Like the founder herself explained, she has probably take us through the purpose and mission of this platform. And for this presentation's sake, I want to believe that ladies here know what Arete means. It means excellence of character. And then you notice also in the Hebrew, it is woman of valor. And everything we'll be discussing tonight, I want to believe I'm with ladies who understand character and who have exemplified this in their spiritual life, in their mental life, in their social life, and then particularly for this evening, their finances. So, in Peter, 2 Peter 1:5, you see the word come out. It says, supplement your faith with virtue, that is with Arete. So, and this evening is going to be particularly different for you. If you're going to be here with me, wholeheartedly, because I'm going to take you through something you probably have never heard before. I'm someone who loves to go in depth when it comes to finances. So, and you're going to love it. So, who is in the room? I want to believe a career woman is here with us this evening, an entrepreneur, a ministry partner, like Sister Josie. They were sister sometimes. I'm trained not to use sister anymore, so I just call Josie, right? The multiple income woman. So I want to believe I have this category of ladies this evening. And then if you're a career woman, stay connected. You have values for you, and then entrepreneur, ministry partner, and then even the ordinary young lady among us is going to have value for tonight. So a little about me. Before 2019, I've always worked to ensure undergraduates arrive at adulthood a millionaire. That was my primary goal starting up. I started my personal finance journey at 16. At age 16, I wanted to understand how to build wealth because I came from an average home, and I hated everything about my environment, and wanted to build something worthwhile, something I'll be proud of. And in doing that, I developed a purpose around it, and that was helping people build wealth as well. So I was building simultaneously helping people to build. So when I found myself in school, then I was really particular about helping undergraduates, and then I evolved into helping core members to build wealth before POP. And then in 2019, I started helping young professionals and solopreneurs build systems where they can, build strong business financial systems. Because if you have to paint an average Nigerian into business, you can almost imagine someone doing small thing, and in a small way, they make money and then they spend the money. It's the kind of business that you are eating for meat. You are making money just for something you are going to eat for that day again. So that is the kind of environment, that is the kind of business system we see around us. So in a bid to do better, I also had audience that was different from my primary audience, which were undergraduate and core members. But in 2023, I gained extensive industrial experience where beyond the undergraduate, core members, and young professionals, and I have access into corporate clients and well-meaning people who also love structure. And the beautiful thing about me is that I love, explaining and translating financial concepts into an editable and reusable template, something you can pick up. A 15 years old lady, a 15 years old girl, a 15 years old teenager, as the case may be, will be able to reuse, will be able to understand and automate. And that is why, if you are here tonight, I'm sure you have a lot of value you are going with. So this section is that structure where you also learn that defensive financial system are built for people around me and people have impacted so far. So for the objective we'll walk through unmasking the possible limits that Nigerian women face. And we'll also look at the defensive framework that you can now, you can incorporate your personal finance. And then we'll see the possible pathways to build wealth, and then we'll walk you through the journey. You'll be able to see how the journey would look like eventually. So unmasking the limits. What are the limits women face in our environment? I'm looking at Nigeria as an environment. We can see the limits we don't talk about, the data behind why capable women build less than they earn. You see, the data that we have is surprising, because we have data that prove that we have women working but still locked out. You can see 52.2% of Nigerian women had a bank account in 2024 versus 74.3% of men, meaning that we have a gender gap. Most women are not interested in banking activities. Find the rate may be a bit above average. However, the gap is still there compared to 74.3% of men. And then we have 36.5% of women that saved formally via mobile phone versus 50.2% of men. Meaning that when it comes to mobile access, digital banking, we have just 36.5% of women that are involved. We have 23% of Nigerian women with formal bank accounts against some 7% of men. And this is a recent report in 2026, meaning that there's a decline, again, gender gap. We also have 51% of Nigerians score on the World Bank's women. Not interesting, we also 124th country out of 148 nations, on the global gender gap index. So all of this data again prove that we are currently facing a gender gap as far as finance. Jemima, as far as finance is concerned, we have a huge gender gap. And, we are closing that gap this evening because this section would recruit women and ladies that is going to change the data in the next few years. And you see, we have 0 reforms to close this gender gap in Nigeria, between the data between 2023 to 2025. So, like I said, we are going to close that. Also, another truth is the fact that women have low access to capital. You can see 2.9 trillion credit gap Nigerians are facing, even though they had women tend to, they are credit worthy than men. However, we still have, credit gap as large as 2.9 trillion. 10% of loans from financial service providers don't, only reach women. 16.7 of women who apply and get loan, default less, even compared to men. But if you look at the 16.7% of people are accessing loan, and even though the data proved that they default less, they are still not getting, access to capital, meaning that men are taking charge. Men are, seizing opportunity that the system has provided. We also have 80% plus of women-owned businesses in Nigeria that operate with no access to formal credit. Of course, I understand that when it comes to finance as well, most of us are basic and don't even know about, systemic opportunities. So another hard truth is that we are a barrier and a limit we see is that women don't play the long game. They don't have retirement plan. And you see 96% of even employed women are into informal sectors. There are people who settle for less. I don't know if you are even one of them, but 96% of women, we are still in a country where most women are not, they still believe they are, after school, they just become full housewife. And probably they sit in kitchen and they find something to do, just small thing they can do. That is the informal sector. That is what we call the informal sector. When you are not thinking corporate, you are not thinking going systemic. Do you get? So that is the challenge we still see. So if income stop, when you stop, you don't have wealth. So when wealth building wealth, breaking limits, is first realizing and unmasking those limits. The limits and barriers you don't even realize you can break, right? So in order to break from these challenges, you have to see them. And that is why I've been able to prove to you that, one, there's a systemic issue, lack of access to the system, lack of capital, and then lack of playing the long-term game. We have women are generally short-term thinkers, and you see them, just trying to settle for the less, because societally we are primed to even think small. And tonight I want to believe we are going to close that gap because you want to do better. So what's the key insight here? The key insight is that income is never the problem. Like we also, I cited the verse of the scripture, Proverbs 31, when I started, where we saw Arete played out in the Old Testament and also in 1 Peter, virtue. you see that one striking thing that separated the virtuous woman, the Proverb 31 woman, was that she was diligent. And you see that she earns. It was not just the fact that she earns. It was not the fact that she works hard. It was not just the fact that she generously give. It was also because she was. The Bible says that she armed herself with strength and courage. So I want to believe that you will be courageous mentally for the task ahead of us and for this presentation, because you are not just going to learn what we are about to unfold in a deeper dimension, but you are also going to be willing to close that gap so that more recent data that that are ahead of us would be better. We'll see women who thrive not just informally but formally in different sectors. So, to summarize the 4 silent limits that you need to break this evening, number 1, there will be structural limits. Nigerian, societally, in fact, most structures, most environments lock out women from every formal credit system, even with lower default rate, like I said, than men. So you need to start thinking. Credit is not the only way to close the gap, but this is a major reality we see. Also, informally, income women earn like every other person, like every other man too. We earn, but no formal financial structure. If I ask anyone here tonight that have you touched the money today, everyone will say yes. So if you have not touched the money, you can meet with your leader, Miss Esther. You can meet with her to show you what a piece of money looks like. I'm sure everyone has seen money today. I'm sure everyone has even touched it. So, but we don't have a system of trapping money, and that is why we are not building wealth. So when we see money, we just see it as a tool. We just see it as it's a tool anyway, but it's beyond that. If you're going to build wealth, you have to see your future in it. You must have the ability to see beyond what everyone look at. And that means every time you touch a piece of money, you are seeing your dream house in it. If you're going to see money differently, that is when you start building wealth differently. If you are still seeing money like everyone does, you are not going to build wealth. You are just going to remain small. And that is why you want to see money differently. And this is how I painted the picture. Imagine money like a web circle, like every other circle you were taught in school, carbon circle, water circle. Just imagine. And that 5 naira you touched today, that 15 naira you touched today, 1,000 naira note you touched today, it's probably in Ibadan now. It's probably in Plateau. It's probably in Ekiti. It's probably in Delta now. The money you touch, meaning that money is in circle. But the diligent person, the Proverb 31 woman, has an employment for that money. Is taming the money. Just like the money is passing from everybody's and exchanging hands, what we call velocity of money. Money is always moving. Activity of money, the economic activity you see, because of the economic activity, money is exchanging hand per seconds, per minute. But the skillful money manager is taming that money, is delaying that money to build an enterprise, is delaying that money to build a vineyard, like the Proverb 31 woman, is delaying that money to increase the value, so that before the money leaves your hand into someone's hand, you've built something for yourself that can repeat that circle. Because the person that is broke first is the person that is not engaged in that circle, money circle. So if you have not touched money, you are most miserable. Apologies. You are most miserable because people that are not even participating in that circle are the most miserable. Now, if your participation is not going to be long because you cannot retain or tame that money, I'm sure you are painting the picture, right? You are seeing that money is going in a circle, and people who can stay in that circle the long are the wealthiest. Because when the money comes through them, they can build an enterprise that ensure that the money will keep flowing, so that they don't get locked out of that circle. So that is why they build businesses that retain the value of money. They build anything valuable that retain the value of that money. And they know that the money is retained, not with money, but with value. So they become valuable enough for them to ensure that the continuity is ensured. So if you are going to be in the circle just for, imagine you are in the spending circle or money circle, and you have just 1,000 naira. How long would you spend 1,000 naira? I'm not sure you can. It will be up to a minute, right? But imagine you have 1 billion. How much would you spend 1 billion? Imagine you now have 100 billion. How long will you spend 100 billion? That is wealth. Wealth is not income. And that is why we've been able to differentiate wealth from income, because income is what you make, is the money that has flowed in. But how long will you spend that money? That is wealth. And that is why to now build that wealth, you must have a structure that ensures that the income can flow in even without you, as we are still going to see. So if you are going to spend 1 billion or 100 billion for the rest of your life, you build wealth that can sustain you even without working anymore. And that is what wealth is. So another silent limit is invisible labor. Most women have a lot of work they are already doing that are not valuable enough. So you need to see it as a woman that will close the gap. As an Arete lady, you have to see these silent, barriers. Unpaid care work, raising children, building a home, supporting ministry. These are things that are already, taking your time. And anything worthwhile requires time. So if you are going to see this invisible labor you do, what you are going to do is, how do I see value in anything you do that already is like an invisible labor? So that means you are going to treat those things you already do normally, you are going to have a way of doing it better and be time efficient with it, and also, probably have a way of doing it better. And that is how to think like a smart money woman, like, smart money manager. And that is why every woman you love to be like, every woman you dream to be like, you see the way they handle this invisible labor is different. The way Ibukun Awoshika, is treating raising children is different from the average woman in Songota, the average woman in Ikeja. Do you get it? So that way, I'm positioning you, I'm priming you to think that it's not like the invisible labor is a bad thing. No, it's actually the way you consider it, the same way you consider money too. You just consider money to be spent easily, and you don't see that your dream future, even those dream big ministry, even those dream cars, luxuries, are in that small money you are letting go easily without building an enterprise or something valuable to ensure continuity. Are you seeing the picture? I want to be sure you are seeing the picture. Can I get someone to react? Just say something like you are with me. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right, thank you. So another limit is inherited silence. A lot of time, women don't discuss about money. It's not just about women. I want to believe there are men here too, or probably men who still listen to this, presentation. So we have inherited silence. A lot of time, people don't want to discuss money. In church, at home, people don't discuss money. So I want to believe I've been able to, highlight this limit that we need to break off from and then start building wealth. So quickly, you see from that Proverb 31 verse 16, it says, she considers a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So all those earnings, she was not just seeing earnings to be spent. She was seeing earnings to plant a vineyard. Are you seeing differently, or you are still going to look? Are you still going to keep looking, or you are going to see? So she is not just seeing her earnings as something to be spent, but she saw a vineyard that she was going to plant. And that is what the Proverb 31 woman does. And verse 25 says something powerful. And she, the paraphrasing now, the Bible said that she looked into the future. She smiles at the future because she's prepared, and she has prepared her family for it. And that is it. What is the ability to be prudent enough to cater for your future needs, even when you don't have to work for it anymore? And that is the prudence that is required of you when you want to build wealth. So let's go practical now, and I'll be a bit fast just to be timely. So I want to introduce you to the defensive approach to building wealth. The defensive approach to building wealth. I know most of us, I know we have a lot of things we've learned about money and building wealth, but I want to teach you the defensive approach. Why the defensive approach is because a lot of times, even in Nigerian and in underdeveloped countries, Ponzi schemes is the norm. People want to build wealth. The moment they start having few changes, right? You see the questions they are even asking prove that they don't know anything. They are looking for the next thing that can, just double that money in 1 minute. And so they are so offensive and rude in knowledge that their own circle is a circle of ignorance. So that is why it is the defensive approach to wealth. And I've been teaching this, every time, because it's the best approach. The best approach to wealth is what you are going to learn in the next few minutes. So how money is made? How is money made? There are 4 engines that generate income. Number 1, we have employment. Number 2, we have self-employment. Number 3, we have business. And number 4, we have investments. ESBI, something I learned from Robert Kiyosaki, will I say a decade ago, 10 years ago. I've learned this quite long now. So these are the 4 ways you can earn an income. So I want to believe probably we have a good example of someone who make money through employment, someone who is doing small thing, self-employment, someone who has started a business that she's not doing anymore. And in Nigeria, what we do the most times is that we confuse self-employment with business. You see a young lady, a young guy starting up something, and they call it business. So, the way we see something determine how big it's going to be. You see, like I said, the average Nigerian is doing something, starting off something, is calling it a business. Yes, it's a business, but you are only self-employed. You own a job. It's a business the moment you are not fiscally involved anymore. And that is when you transition from being a self-employed to a business owner. So in employment, you trade your skill. You have a skill that's made you employable to an employer, and you get paid for it. Then in self-employment, you own your job. That is when you deploy your skill to earn something. And then in business, the right-hand side now is where you need to be. You can start from E, you can start from X, you can even be in the 4 quadrants. You can be we have people earning money from all the 4 engines. You can have 2, you can have 3, and you may be here without even earning. But to build well, you have to start somewhere, and that is why you need to know how money is made. Money is made through these 4 engines, and your goal as a smart money woman is to transition to the right-hand side. If you are not even going to be retaining the 4 engines, is to transition into B and I, the right-hand side. because that is the future. That is the words. Because the right-hand side, the left-hand side is where you are physically involved. In employment, you are going to work. Your time is traded for money. In self-employment, your time is also traded for money. Meaning that if you go on vacation, your money is also on vacation. You won't make money when you're on your vacation. When you're in the beach traveling, your dream is traveling around the world. Your dream has nothing to do with making money. So that means your goal must be to transition into not using your time to make money. And that is even your duty. You have to determine that time. That is why you need to start early so that you can quickly build money, still trading your time on E and S, and then transition quickly to making money on B and I. So it's when you now have the business. When you have a business, is when you are not physically involved or you are less physically involved. Dangote is a good example because he's a popular man. It could be anywhere building businesses because the time involved is the strategy, is the managerial skill. It's not physically producing cement or even refining oil. It's the leadership skills. He has the businesses everywhere. And so it's not, you don't have to become Dangote to play that kind of game. You see a young woman having POS store almost in every corner of the street now. That is a business. She doesn't have to do it. She just has to get somebody to sit in that small kiosk or POS shop, and you see it, she'll be able to plant another one. The reason for that multiplicity or duplication is because she's not the one doing it. The moment you are the one doing it, you cannot multiply it. You can't be here and be there at the same time. So these 4 Ng's are how you build it. I just hope you get the picture. And then we also have how money is spent. How money is spent. The moment you generate income, the next thing we're going to be discussing is how that money is being spent. Because the next thing is that somebody else start earning money, but they start spending poorly. They earn money, and in fact, data has proven that in fact we have high income earners, as we are still going to see, who are not efficient with the money that they make. So this model now is now, I created this model. I call it yield. This is where I help people yield from poor finance management, poor money management, yield. So my model yield is income, expenses, asset, liability. It's a common word, but I put them together. I call it yield. Do you get? And for me, it measures how efficient someone is, and then it also measures position, financial position after a period of time. Efficiency measures period of time, position measure at the end of a period. Now, if you earn an income at the end of a month, and we are going to look at how you spend it for the new month. How you spend it for a new month, start of 1 to 31st or 30, is a period of a month that determines your managerial skill, how skillful you are with money management, how your relationship with money. In fact, when I have a statement, a bank statement, for instance, it tells me a lot about who you are. And that is why sometimes I just love to hear from people, even from their words, I know who they are. From their bank statement, you can tell who they are. You can even tell their dreams. It's not the ones you tell with your mouth that is your true dream. It's also the one your bank statement is telling us. So you see people earn money, and then when it comes to how money is spent, zero. They make money. We have some that have not even started their financial journey. Because number one, they are not financially aware, they are ignorant. Number two, they are not even making anything. And we have a solution for everyone. If you're an example in this meeting. So income is what you make, then expenses is what you spend, asset is what you build or what you buy that pays you money. that what works for you, and then liability is what costs you money. If assets brings you money, liability is what takes it away. Let me give a picture. I love giving pictures so that you can be connected, right? So imagine you make money, and then when you eat out, you buy shawarma, and what other things do women buy now? Maybe Revon and those fancy stuff you love, and that is expenses, right? Now imagine you buy an asset, let's say a piece of land, because that is, if someone is going to mention an asset now, that is the first thing they'll mention. Let's say a piece of land that's going to appreciate, right? That is an asset, right? And the liability, when you buy a generator just to give you extra source of light, that is a liability. Why? Because it's going to create a new cost. The land you bought, you can get rent from it. Maybe you rent it out to a farmer that is going to use it for plantation and then be paying you monthly. That asset is now adding to your income. Maybe you earn 1 million a month, and that piece of land now, the rent is maybe like 100,000 monthly. You see that your income has increased in value. That is what an asset does. It increases your income without working again. So it's the farmer that pays you now. That farmer now is like an employee. Having asset employs someone to replace you. It's like a delegation strategy. You don't even need to have a forward business where you employ someone. The moment you have an asset, something starts working on your behalf. So liability now creates a new expenses for you. Maybe all your expenses in a month is 500,000. The moment you buy a liability like a generator now, you start buying fuel. Fuel was not in your expenses before. But the moment you buy a generator, then the liability will create a new expenses, which is fuel, which is maintenance. That means asset creates new income, liability creates new cost, new expenses. That is why when you buy a car, you automatically, fuel is a new expense on your list. Maintenance is a new expense. So every time you buy something that creates a new expense, that is a liability. So the blind spot is that we are not starting our financial journey. We are complaining about the income size. One of the reasons why you've not built wealth, you are still complaining. You are still wasting money, not being able to differentiate between wealth, needs, and wants. Also, you are not ending the rat race yet. No financial structure. So the next thing on how to build wealth is what I call ESWR. This one, I also created it. It means is a way of now building assets. The first challenge is how to make money. The second challenge is now how to spend the money you are making. Now the fourth, the third consideration now is how to spend, how to build the asset you want to, how I believe the best approach I believe you should create your asset, because this is where a lot of people miss it. The moment they have money now to invest, money to build a business, money now to to build assets, that is when they see CBEX, Ponzi schemes. So the first line of defense is what I call emergency fund. The primary way to build wealth is to start with emergency fund. I call it emergency fund because it's your first line of defense. You have no business building an asset if you have not, or a business, let me say. Emergency fund is also an asset until an emergency occurs. So the first asset you are building is something that you can put aside in a savings account, in an high interest savings account, for emergency sake. Because emergency happen to everyone. Like people would commonly say, problem no dey finish. Emergency can happen to anybody. And because you are diligent, like the Proverb 31 woman, like go and read it, the full chapter. You'll see that what made that difference was the fact that she was prudent. She's futuristic. Emergency would happen if you know, so you build an emergency fund. The reason you are not going to be a smart investor is that you don't even have emergency to start with. And so when the problem happens, the first thing you want to do is to sell that land. So you started with land. You are going to sell it. It's because you are not smart. You don't know emergency do happen. Loss of job can happen anytime. Health issues that can squander your best wealth strategy can happen. So emergency fund is the first thing to build. Then we have sinking fund. Sinking fund is, you have expenses, which I'm still going to explain, but time is fast spent because we started late. Sinking fund is that fund you separate to cater for your future non-expenses. Every month, you don't pay rent every month. At least in Nigerian system, rent is yearly. So anything you don't do, you don't spend monthly, regularly, is a sinking need. So you create a sinking fund for a sinking need. I'm sure we understand. I'm not able to get a reaction. So it's, when you are doing online presentation, it could be a barrier on its own, because that is why I call on someone to give me a reaction. So you need to create a fund that caters not just for emergency now, but for your future known needs. In emergency, emergency is something you are not expecting. So an unexpected needs. But sinking fund is expected needs. You are going to pay rent. You are going to pay school fees. You are planning a ministry outreach. You want to wed next 2 years or next year or in 3 months. You have a project you are planning for, or you even know you are going to go shopping. And that is why if you are starting early enough in life, you should not do shopping every month. The moment you start doing it shopping every month, you made that shopping and a living expenses, what we call a living expense, what we call essential need. It's not essential. We are still going to get there, so that by the time you see clarity enough, you are going to build a structure by yourself on how to build wealth. My job is to give you clarity enough to now create your own rule. And these are my own rules. Everything I'm teaching here is something I use, so that you can leave this meeting, this call, to build something worthwhile. Start with your paper. Before you have that big dream, that forward business, that forward dream house, you are going to start on a forward paper. Write your strategy. I'm giving you the clarity enough for you to be able to go, leave this meeting with something you can begin to do that will change the course of your destiny. So we also have wealth fund. Wealth fund is not the capital you are building to create wealth, like it suggests. So in wealth now, you are going to replace your primary income. Probably you started with employment. We've discussed ESBI, self-employment. So you are now creating from what you are generating from that income. You are also siphoning from it to replace the income. Something you are building outside of your primary active income to replace it. And by the time you now generate from a wealth fund what your primary income is generating, that is when you are financially free. Let's say your job is paying you 500, 1 million every month. And now over the years, you built wealth fund in an asset that is now producing. Maybe an asset, maybe land, stocks that we are still going to discuss. I'm not mentioning this asset because I want to believe there are people here who probably don't have the basis. That's why I've not been able to release myself, have freedom to mention some asset classes, because I can't envision my audience. It's a big problem for me, honestly. So you are going to build assets that can substitute your job. Maybe you started with self-employment. Okay, now what can you do? You are looking at maybe stocks, bonds, commercial paper, businesses, commodities that you can do that will produce. So how much capital do you need to build over the years or time to that the proceed in a month will surpass your salary, will surpass your self-employment or your self-owned business? Then that is when you are financially free. And this is the act of your asset, wealth fund. However, you are going to start from emergency fund. You see those vulnerable people online that you see just doing anything anyhow, is because they don't build emergency fund and sinking fund. That is why any small thing, they've scattered the building they are building. The asset they are building, they scattered it. The big businesses and big idea they are trying to execute, they scattered it. When one problem arises, they scattered it. Why? They don't have emergency fund. Or some people is when they want to do wedding, all their savings, all their assets, they scrap it. Why? They don't have sinking fund. So when you can cater for the unknown expenses and known expenses, that is when you can build wealth comfortably. And then retirement fund is where you build something for your old age, when you can't work anymore. It's not different from wealth fund, honestly. The only difference is that to give it a second, what we call two-step authentication factor, right? A second layer of security or freedom. You have to build wealth outside of yourself, because things can go wrong too, even in building wealth. And this one, if you are in employment, if you have a good employer, they are building it for you. So you might not need to build your own. But if you are in a system where you don't have retirement built for you, you have to build it yourself. We are still going to go to how we can build it. If time did not permit us, we might have to have a part 2, because time is fast spent. I don't know when our moderator is going to chat me up because of time. I don't like taking time, but I also like ensuring that you understand everything being shared. Okay, so the first step now is to get a job. This is more or less like a summary. Get a job. I will not go through why you need a job and the benefits because of time. You need to get a reliable income to cover your living expenses. Your living expenses. For I said a big limit to why people don't build wealth is they can't differentiate their needs from their wants. And we're still going to see that. They can't differentiate the two. So if you can't differentiate that, you are not going to have something to build wealth, even from your income. So you still see that. So, and you can also improve your any ability to break into skills, business, and then investing, aside the job. But honestly, to start building wealth, you need to get a job. If you don't have anything you are doing, this is the word for you. Get a job. Get something doing. Get a job. It's when you have income, you can talk about building wealth. And if you have a job, you can enhance, you can improve any ability, because that is where it starts from. It starts from income generation, then to income management. So, now the income management is your ability to keep something from anything you earn. And this is where most of us miss it from everyone that is even earning something, either small or big or large. You need to keep something, what we call margin, or what you call savings. It's margin because now we discuss in percentage. So the percentage of your percentage savings is a margin, or percentage margin is your retained income. And to be skillful with income management or managing your expenses, you need to be able to differentiate your needs from your wants. Focus on needs primarily when you are growing or when you are still building. If you are in your building phase, focus on needs, leave wants. When you build asset enough, you will enjoy all the wants you want to enjoy. Yes, you make provision for your want, like you saw. Sinking fund is for want. And I'm still going to show you, practical ways to build everything in a very perfect way. So you need a margin and a saving. You must not spend everything you make to build wealth. You must not spend everything to build wealth. Okay. All right. I just have 12 minutes. So you have to remember this. Your income must not beat expenses. Your income must not beat expenses to have a margin. The moment your income beats expenses, then, the moment your expenses beat your income, then we are even talking about debt here. The moment expenses is greater than income, you are in a debt. The moment your income is equal to your expenses, then no margin. Then your income must be lesser than income to build wealth. So a case study here is Amaka earning 850,000 and spending 830 every month. She has 20,000 naira every month to build wealth. That's what we are saying, right? That income now, that margin now cannot be translated into building wealth in emergency fund, sinking fund, wealth fund, and then retirement fund. Is what is not left you cannot use to start building your emergency fund, sinking fund, wealth fund, and then retirement fund. But the issue here with Amaka is that she's a spender. She spends a lot. And a lot of it will be waste most of the time, as you can see. People that are not wealth focused, they spend wastefully. They buy things that are not necessary. They don't focus on their essential needs, their living expenses. So another case study is somebody that is even any lower than Amaka Efioma, 320 total income. She has 3 sources of income: salary, baking business, and the rental unit every month. And she's earning 32,000 in total, and she's saving 30% of it, which is 96,000, 30% margin. And that 96,000 cannot be used monthly, in building emergency fund, sinking fund, wealth fund, and then retirement fund. And retirement fund may not be necessary if our employer is already building that for her according to the law. So over time, your margin will always grow. You can see Amaka that has 2% margin and if your man that has 30% margin, you can see the gap becomes wider over time. Over time. That is where you see somebody suddenly, that small 96,000, 20,000. When you hear 15 years later, it's now millions, and you'll be shocked. That small habit compound. So that is why it's just essential to start with a margin. The moment you have an income, the next concern is margin. You must be able to generate a margin every month, to build wealth. So because of time, so you need to choose pathways. We have 2 pathways now. Part 3 is choosing your pathways. We have people who think like a force. We have people who think like Eshog. What is a force mindset? A force mindset is somebody who believes in, multitasking, building. I told you we have 4 assets that I believe we should all build defensively. Emergency fund, don't forget, sinking fund, wealth fund, and retirement fund. Somebody with force mindset will believe in adding from, maybe they were able to save 50,000 in that month. They will now divide that 50,000 into 4 in percentage, and now they have unique asset accounts or investment account for these 4 funds, and they now add in percentage small. There are people who like building it like that. We also have Hedgehog. These people, their own mindset is taking it one after the other. They believe in, no, that 50,000, let me just put it in emergency fund and build it first to a certain number. Maybe I want to build my emergency fund to 1 million. Then I'll go to sinking fund, build it like to 5 million. They take it milestone, a goal at a time. So those are 2 approaches that are very good, 2 pathways that are very good. Either way it goes, I love the blended one, where you can first, because that is what I do. You first focus on your emergency funds. So this is an example of somebody who earns 400,000 monthly, cater for his living expenses. 50% of it goes into living expenses. Don't forget, not just wants. Your living, things you spend monthly is what we call living expenses. Anything you do regularly every month is living expenses. Anything you can't do monthly is something you should be able to, spend in your sinking fund. Your sinking fund caters for something you don't do every month. That is why you have to plan towards it. So that's the sinking fund. So we also have wealth fund, retirement fund, blah, blah, blah. So this is how you can allocate. The percentage may differ. This is a Fox mindset. This is a Fox mindset. We also have Hedgehog mindset. This one doesn't want to do percentage. It wants to build the emergency fund first to 500,000. Afterwards, when that is done, they now go to building sinking fund of 1 million for their rent or other thing. I'm still going to teach you the best strategy if time permits. Then they now, after achieving 1.5 now, emergency fund and sinking fund, they now focus on building the next 5 million as wealth fund that they can use to start their business or anything. I'm sure even these two mindsets now, some of us are a good example of the first and the other one. Not all of us like. So, and then the fourth is, to getting the, to start tracking your numbers, your net worth and the freedom number. So this is it. My recommendation for singles, and if you are still young, early in your career, go for Esther. Build your emergency fund first. That is what I recommend. If you are married, then you cannot do a bit of fox, because once you have your emergency fund, you cannot start doing percentage on all the fall again. But now you allocate just more for the emergency because you built it already. Then you more down to retirement. In your retirement, you don't need to do all of that anymore. You are not so cash, so liquid to enjoy your retirement. So this is my best recommendation. Stage one, build your emergency fund 100%. Then do force again when you build emergency fund, because that is emergency fund. When I was growing up, I called it my financial confidence number. There was a time, if I don't have 1 million, I don't feel okay. So I wanted to build my first 1 million. I was not thinking doing investment like everybody was in a rush to do. I just wanted 1 million. That was my financial number then. At some point, I just felt, no, it's now 5 million. And I wanted to build it until I built it. So you have to have a financial confidence. That protection is your emergency fund. Something that makes you feel fine. If you have it, it makes you feel good, right? But it's not the goal. The goal for emergency fund is for emergency. So you're not touching that kind of money until there is an emergency. Just the same thing, sinking fund. You are not touching it until there is for the plan. The reason why you created that fund is for a future known expenses. But the beauty of this thing is starting early enough in life. Imagine a sinking fund you've built maybe 10 million, 20 million, and you want to pay rent. You are not going to pay rent of 20 million. The interest of that 20 million will be catering for your sinking. You'll be able to do shopping without even spending your fund, but spending the proceed. And that is the advantage of starting early enough. So if you are here, you are still young, maybe a teenager, a young lady that is still below 20, start early. There's a way you can build your emergency fund that even when emergency comes, you are spending the interest, not your fund. You are spending the proceed, because these are assets. They are also appreciating in value. So you now have wealth fund that you have to build in stocks, bond, and in businesses that appreciate over time to replace your income. And then retirement, you can build it yourself, or your employer is building it for you. So in stage two, like a force, you now start assigning percentages. So squarely focus on your emergency fund, then assign percentages when the emergency fund is over, or you've achieved that number that globally we say 3 to 6 months of your living expenses must be your emergency number that you have to save in an high interest savings account or mutual fund account or any investment account that is liquid enough that you can access anytime if there's an emergency. Then always review. There'll be years at the end of the year review. Every month you review, but at the end of the year, you can review to reassign the percentages. You can feel, oh, my emergency is now big enough. Let me just be assigning 1% of my savings every month to it, to be accumulating it, because somehow when you start growing, your numbers are growing, your living expenses will grow. Maybe 10 years, 5 years ago, your living expenses were just 50,000 or 100,000. But now, maybe you are now in your early 30s or late 30s, you see that your living expenses is now like 300, 500, 1 million. There are people who spend 1 million as their expenses every month. So because they grow, so you must also think like a force. You must also assign percentages. But starting early enough, you must build like an hedgehog. So, okay, the journey now. The journey is not always easy. The journey is not always easy. I just have 2 minutes, so I'll speed this place. We have effort, strategy. There's a time where you'll be building. The numbers will not be motivating. You see that you are building this asset and you've not arrived at 1 million. The interest coming will not be interesting. So that is the effort stage. Then you reach 7-figure. When you arrive at your 1 million, you'll be fine 9 million. You're not seeing 9 million. Strategy stage, scaling it up to dominance. Then you see how it begins to compound. The first 5 years, 4-5 years, you may not have more than 4 million. Looking at somebody who's consistently saving or investing 50,000 every month. But as the years go by, you just see it starts scaling. You start reaching dominance level, depending on what you save. Because I also have examples of 50,000 every month at 16% per annum. You see how it compounds over the year. You can see at year 36, it already became a billion. And at 39, it became 1.8 billion. Looking at 100, you see how it's moved from 8.9 in the 5th year. In the first 2-3 years, that is your effort. That is the year you have to be diligent. You have to sustain the culture of doing it over and over again. But you reach a point where if you don't add the cover again in a month, it will be growing because your asset is also adding. It reached a point where you are being replaced already by your assets. In fact, in year 10, if you don't add anymore, your asset is already adding to ensure that the compounding continues. Even in year 2, year 3, but you just want to ensure that what the asset is able to add is not big enough that you want to stop. And that is when we call it wealth. Before this year happens, wealth already occurred because now your wealth is being able to supply or replace your primary income. So you start tracking your net worth, for all your assets, then remove your expenses and all of that. So it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call. Excellence is not an accident. Neither is wealth. See, I believe excellence can be achieved at any level. In fact, we used to play games in levels when we're small, when we're younger. Before you get to level 2, you have to first succeed level 1. You have to first pass level 1. So it was the excellence that you achieved at level 1 that promoted you to level 2, meaning that excellence can be achieved at any level. So if you are a salary earner now, achieve the excellence at your level. If any level you are right now, excellence is required of you to go to the next level. So that is just it. You can see the woman, she's not afraid for the future. For her household is clothed with strength and dignity. She shall rejoice in time to come. Amplify says she smiles at the future because she's prepared. She's prepared. So the wake-up call is that inflation is not playing. If you are not building wealth, you are going to remain small. You are going to remain small. 100 naira in 1960, the equivalent is 1.636 million. Meaning that somebody who have 1.36 million now just have 100 naira. Well, the value of that in 1960 is 100 naira. That is the power of inflation. It's eating your value, the value of your money. So you need to build assets that increase your value faster than inflation. So you can't be in the middle ground here. If you are not sure, you are losing. So you can't say, no, let me just be average in my life. You cannot be average. You will only be small. There is no average ground. So that is just it. So the trap is that a lot, like I said, they earn, they spend, they repeat. They don't build well. They don't keep a margin. And that margin, your savings, is what goes into building your assets. And what are your assets? First, just emergency funds, which could be 3 to 6 months of your expenses. There are people who now have their emergency fund like in years, 10 years. Their emergency fund can cater for their expenses for 10 years, even if they stop working. How much more sinking fund now? They can pay for any sinking fund, any travel, any rent from the proceeds of their sinking fund. That is an advantage of starting early. Fund, they now build assets, army of assets, generating income to surpass their primary income in stocks, in mutual funds, real estate, businesses. And like I said, self-employment is not business. Yes, it's business, but if you are still fiscally involved, just be humble enough to tell yourself that you are not in a business yet. That way you set your brain on fire to find a way of delegating, of multiplying, so that you can have chains of businesses that you are not fiscally involved anymore. Your job is to lead, is to organize, is to set the direction and vision of those businesses. So the fourth line of business is retirement fund. You can see somebody that starts with 20,000 at 25 will have 60.1 million, just 20,000 naira at 60. And this one, the interest has not been added to it, because it will shock you that this same 20,000 could be hundreds of millions, if not 1 billion at 60. And I'm not joking. I can't run the calculation because of time, but it's just to tell you that time surpass. Starting early is better. But look at the same person that started 35 years, the same 20,000 every month will earn just 20.8 million. See the gap, 10 years difference. Somebody who started 25 years and somebody who started 35 years, the gap is wide. So how much more if we now factor in the interest rate? Maybe the one that started 25 will now worth billions, and the other one that started 35 will now worth maybe hundreds of millions, even tens of millions. So that is the advantage of starting early. You see how the graph will look like over time. So give every naira a job. Every time you hold money, just see your living expenses in it, assign it immediately. That is how people want to build wealth, sees money. You assign. You any money that comes into your hand as a job. Living expenses, that is it. Your expenses is what you spend monthly for your needs. Then emergency fund becomes your next need. Then sinking fund, wet fund, and retirement fund. Don't forget, you can squarely face emergency fund if you are starting. Then you now resume back to assigning percentages. Then, if you do this, you arrive at passive income where you build your wealth, where your wealth then overtakes your job, and then you say you are wealthy. So this is my challenge for everyone. We can't track your naira. Now, take money as your girlfriend or boyfriend now. Understand your relationship with money, track it. Know how you've been thinking about money, know how money behaves with you, or how you behave to money or with money. And then week 2, start creating accounts where you can, have all these things sorted. And then week 3, you can now determine your pathway. And then in week 4, you can start tracking your numbers. Thank you. My last word for you is that you need to break that limit. I've shared a lot of limits holding you behind. If you've identified one, you need to close the gap so that you can build an army of assets and deliberately remain intentional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, I've gained a lot, and I believe every other person, here, because I've learned 1 or 2 things. And thank you for your time, knowledge, everything that you've shared tonight. May God continue to, strengthen you, more wisdom, in Jesus' name. All right, so we have 5 questions. If you have questions also, you can just send. They can always get a way to send the responses to you afterwards. But currently we have 5 questions. Though I'm not going to take on 5 questions, because if truly you followed this question, however, if I'm going to read it out, but if you don't still, get it, thankfully we are streaming live on YouTube, so you can go revisit the YouTube channel. The name of the channel is Esther Etuk, and I'm collaborating with Moses Adebayo. So if you go to his page or go to mine, you can always see it, to just stream everything all over again. Right. So the first question is, many people desire financial freedom. Only a few get to achieve it, So in your opinion, what are the biggest mental or behavioral limits people must break before they can begin to build lasting wealth? And like I said, I don't even touch it, but I believe you have touched it, because you started with the, what's it called, first approach to wealth, which I believe, would answer that. And the second one, for someone earning an average income and struggling with rising living costs, what are the 3 practical steps they can start taking today to begin their wealth building journey? The third one says, there's often a debate between saving, investing, and starting a business. How should an individual prioritize this, especially when resources are limited? Considering the fact that so many people in Nigeria these days, not just so many people, we have quite a number of people that are learning below 100,000, and they've been hearing a lot about investing this, investing that, buying these shares, stocks, fund, all of those things. So how did they prioritize this process of saving, investing, and starting a business? Not necessarily having to start a business, maybe they just want to advance their career, So how did they go about it, despite the fact that they have limited resources? Then there's a question also on distinguishing between financial rich and reckless one. I don't think you get that. How would you mind distinguishing between financial risk and reckless one? Then the last one says, can you state one principle from your message that can help for over the next 12 months? So what will you recommend, or what kind of transformation will you recommend that someone should put into practice for them to remain consistent towards towards achieving all the things that you've shared so far? So those are the questions we have.
Okay,
So
thank
no,
you.
just
Well, if you have followed carefully, I think I've answered them all. So I'll just pinpoint the answers. So the behavioral limit actually is the fact that we look at money, we don't see it. We don't see our intentions in money. So like I said, when you see money, see it differently. See your future in money. So that way, when you see money, you assign a job immediately. You are locating immediately. So those are the challenges, that you have money, but you are only spending. You are not seeing yourself building something out of that money. So the moment you can see, you'll be able to do the mathematics. So that is the behavioral limit, actually, that we consider it small to build from. We consider it too small. Like now, if you have 100 naira with you, the way you are going to spend it, consider it small to start with. Are you getting the point? So the point is, we consider 100 naira too small to allocate. Meanwhile, it's first the culture. The culture of allocating that 100 naira reinforces your mindset over time. And then what you start seeing is that the numbers start adding up. Compounding takes it from you over time. So that is it. That behavioral limit, saying that this thing is too small to start with, you now realize that thing you call too small, 5 years, you don't still add that small thing again because you are not building from it. How many people conclude that 1 million is small? Because let's say even say 100,000 is small. What can I do with 100,000? They consider it small. So they spend it, we waste it because they consider it too small. But 5 years from now, they still don't have 100K. So the habit of making things small is what is keeping people behind. So that is just it. So once you can keep money and retain the value and appreciate it, you'll be able to build something over time. At least before you know something better you can do with the money, keep it. Do you get? So steps to building wealth. There's no time to answer that. Like I've extensively shared that you need to first get a job. If you have an income, then translate that income to a margin where you don't spend everything you earn. You have to create a margin. It is that margin you can now devote into building your emergency fund, your sinking fund, your wealth fund, and then your retirement fund. So somebody is asking, what should I prioritize? Even though I have limited resources, what should I prioritize among savings, business, and investment with limited resources? Prioritize your emergency fund. So what the emergency fund is going to do to you is that it will change your mindset first. It's the same thing with the behavioral limit. I'm telling you, if you have not handled 1 million before, or maybe 5 million before, first achieve that number. You will not. One thing I can assure you is that you will not be that person that is jumping for a Ponzi scheme anymore, because it does something to your mindset. That is why growing up, I learned to call it financial confidence number. Suddenly, you start thinking differently. Suddenly, you start changing your friends. Not because you want to change them, but because that number have a way of giving you, even making you protective. Because you know how hard it is for you to arrive at 5 million, 1 million. So you don't just want to give it out to any Ponzi scheme. And, it also makes you inquisitive. Now you want to be friends with your account officer. You are not just opening bank account. You want to ask them, you have 5 million, what can they advise you? That is when you start having meaningful conversation. There's something I can't even discuss because I'm limited. Time. There's no time. So for other questions, I will appreciate if you can have a personalized conversation beyond this call. Because like I said, if I don't know my audience, I can't tailor my response. So that is also a limitation. That is why I assume this person that is talking about limited resources probably still maybe less than 1 million. So for every customer category or audience category, there's a unique answer for everyone. So the person can chat me up as well. Distinguish risk and reckless. I also address this. When you don't have a solid financial structure, you are already reckless, jumping in. See, if you are building systematically, no one would woo you to come and do anything if you are building an emergency fund. If you are in a stage where you are building your emergency fund and somebody is telling you to come and invest in one AI something, you will not jump into it because practically you have a plan and you have a structure where at the season of that structure, what you are building is your emergency fund. So you will not jump into somebody who's telling you one AI powered data that will give you one, because you have a plan. So it is still lack of the plan and lack of financial structure that make you vulnerable to jump into people's, people's plan. Do you get it now? So, I would advise you reconsider everything I've taught tonight. Like I said, have a forward paper now today, pen everything you've learned and create your own rules. Create a financial structure for me. Then you'll not be reckless when you are making financial decisions. So anytime you don't have a plan, you don't have knowledge about what you are doing, that is reckless. That is not just, naturally life is risky. So I'm not saying, I'm differentiating risk from being reckless now by saying that it is now reckless when it is not your plan. You see, when you buy into what people are selling to you, you don't have need for it. That is reckless. In fact, when you have a solid plan, you attract those people. You don't become their victim. You don't become their customer. Rather, they become like a supporter to you. If your need right now, like I've session now, if you are in a season where you are building your wealth fund, you've built emergency fund, the kind of people you want to meet are people that are stock experts. That means that is the kind of book you want to be reading. So as a smart money manager, that is the kind of talk you want to have. So if somebody is not talking about Forex or other discussion, you will not be interested. Why? Because you already have the kind of conversation you want to have. So you will not be entertained by a kind of something that is not what you are, your season. So that is what we are talking about. If you have a plan, you will not be vulnerable to people's plan or other plans. So recommendation for a 12 months, you want to challenge yourself. I'm saying that this person wants to challenge himself or herself to do something for the next 12 months. If you are someone, you don't have an emergency fund. By emergency fund, I mean something that like a cushion, that's something like a buffer, a safety net. That should be your 12-month goal. If you have not achieved 1 million before, achieve your first 1 million for the next 12 months. If you are somebody, if the person that asked the question is somebody that is now above 1 million net worth, go for your sinking fund. If you are above 1 million and you ask for a 12-month challenge, go for sinking fund. Go for sinking fund and try some asset classes. Try stock. When you're above 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, try stock. Depending, the number varies. And that is why I don't want to, I'm giving a general answer because I don't know who is asking. So, but the number varies. For some people, their emergency fund, like now, if you are spending 500,000 as your living expenses a month, your emergency fund should be 500,000 times 6. That means your emergency fund should be like 3 million. But for somebody earning 100,000, your expenses should not be 100,000, right? That means your expenses should be around 70,000. Your emergency fund should be like 70,000 times 6. That is why I said it varies. That means for that person, the person should be looking at having 560,000 as emergency fund. So it's your number that determines my response. However, like I said, your living expenses times 6 is your primary emergency fund focus number. So that is how it works. So I've answered the question. I don't know if there are more or you don't. You want it personalized. You can speak with the moderator or what's her name again now? Sorry. Josie, yes, you can speak with Josie. She has my contact already. She would help you with it so that we can have a personalized conversation on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everything. So I believe someone posted or sent in the chat box that they have a question. So like you said, if you have a question, you can just, reach out to the number on the flyer or reply to your mail if you received an email, or maybe you can go to the YouTube channel and just drop a question there. And I believe there's going to be like a response to you there, So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you our speaker for giving us this much knowledge, helping us understand our finances and all of that. I believe that we don't only get to spend more than an hour here. We don't only get to just, waste I won't say waste, use our data for nothing, but we actually, get to practicalize everything, live up to everything that we've heard tonight, revisit it. If it takes you having to listen to the audio, like revisit the streaming, you can do that just to ensure that you get it. And it says something about having to recreate, all of the, because I believe, all these acronyms that I shared, they stand for something. And he said you can, recreate yours and do what works for you. So you can go ahead and do that. If you need more clarity, like I said, you can reach out to Joyce. You can send a message to the number on the flyer, reply to the email if you got an email, or go to the YouTube channel to send some messages in the comment section. So thank you very much, our co-host Joyce, for everything you've done so far, all through, the planning of this event. Thank you to our speaker. God bless you. Thank you for the words and everything that you've shared, the knowledge you've shared. Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you very much. I believe we're going to have a continuation of these sessions. We're going to plan towards it to have a continuation because I don't think it should end here. There's a lot, we can still learn from him, right? So thank you very much for joining. Let me not keep us longer because I believe most of us are going to chat tonight. So thank you. God bless you. So have a wonderful night. Bye.